Sherry's got an interesting idea. Our house has been on the market for 9 of the 12 months of 2025. And a zillion showings at this point.
I don't think a zillion.
No offers. Sherry has an idea. She thinks there's a real estate scam going on. Sherry, you just shared this with me?
Yeah, like right before you hit record. Are you ready? And then you hit record.
Well, I'm always looking for a good lead into the conversation. Why don't you tell people what you think is happening? Got to get a drink of your beverage before you can...
I just said... I bet people are coming and playing house. I mean, instead of renting a room for an hour at a hotel room, there's a real estate agent that has a side hustle that they just come and say, here's this house. I will open the door and you do what you want and clean up and then go home.
So they book the showing for an hour.
They book the showing for an hour.
They take $100 under the table from their client.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's one real estate agent and she's just like has decided. And I'm saying she because I just see her as like being a madam. I mean, I have this whole
we live in the best little whorehouse in Denver.
Yeah, exactly. Like a little she's a madam and
it's a good idea, Sherry. I feel like you've thought this through. Are you working on your real estate license?
It just so happened to come. It popped into my mind because
a lot of things pop into your mind when your house has been on the market for this long.
Yeah. We were complaining. Well, the other day, okay, we have
insurance money for arson pops into your mind.
The other day, the printer was on. That's on our desk, and we have a very large desk that we sit at. And then the tripod that holds our phone. So maybe somebody's heel
dropped their naked butt on our printer. So maybe
the high heel turned on the power switch. The tripod legs were all messed up, and I don't know what's going on here.
That's really why I said we need a lot of creativity up there.
That's why I said we need to have a spy camera going on.
I think a lot of people do. Maybe that is what's happening. We're one of the few houses that don't have a nanny cam in here for showing because we're like, people are good. We trust. Maybe that's our mistake.
There are some empty recording cameras or some camcorder for security that are not in use at my place of business, like my other work.
Yeah.
Maybe we should borrow those and put those around.
I'm gonna see if black web search for the Front Range Chicken Ranch and see if the picture of our house comes up. I think you're onto something.
I mean,
Sherry,
I don't know.
I did a video this week. It all was inspired by a conversation we had within our Echoes of Recovery group where somebody suggested that perhaps to keep people interested and intrigued and working hard in their relationships, to keep people trying, right? Making an effort, creating emotional safety, doing all the stuff that we talk about that's so important, not only theoretically, but important to you and me in our relationship, that to keep people engaged to that level, marriage, rather than being a permanent structure, it should be like a 5-year lease. And at the end of the 5 years, both parties get to decide whether they want to re-up or not, or trade you in for a different model. And so that was the impetus behind it. And when I made the video, I tried to convey that. The whole point here is, let's all try a little harder. Let's be nicer to each other. Let's stay engaged with our partner. Let's create connection. Let's do it in an environment that's emotionally safe. Let's process those resentments. Let's work at relationship. Let's communicate. But when I posted it to YouTube, posted it to Yoo-hoo. Maybe that's why we're not very good at social media. I keep posting stuff to Yoo-hoo, not Yahoo. Not
the fake chocolate milk beverage.
An antiquated search engine. Just the chocolate beverage. You can read our content on the site of Yoo-hoo bottles. Yahoo or Yoo-hoo? Yoo-hoo. Yeah. I'm going to call the marketing department at Ovaltine and see if they'd like to sponsor the podcast. Anyway, I posted it to YouTube and all the comments were from men. And they were all about like the legal structures of marriage. Like, oh, you should consider a prenuptial agreement, or, marriage really is a business contract and it needs to be viewed that way. But people enter into it without reading all the fine print, like stuff like that.
What fine print?
I don't know, man. The point is,
listen, you idiot.
Fucking try harder in your marriage.
I mean, if you are married in a church and then you have a sign you've got a justice of the peace, there is a little bit of stuff you have to do legally, but it's not like you have entered this contract. Not
I don't know.
It's not.
Do you know where our marriage license is?
I'm sure it's in the safety deposit.
Is there any
like our little locked box?
Is there any fancy writing on the back? I don't know. Probably. But the point is, that's not the point.
It's not like.
Who cares about the legal print. Mumbo jumbo? Treat your partner better.
Yeah.
Be a good listener. Ugh.
I mean, I'm sure, but then, but the counter to that is, I'm sure there are a lot of people, and I'm just going to drop them in the grease, men, that have not appreciated maybe the aging of their wives and things that have happened during the aging process of their wives, that they have traded them in for a younger model because they're immature and they can't handle. So I'm just saying,
that's the trope. That's the meme.
Right.
But the research points to the fact that men get a lot more from marriage than women. Men typically have exactly one relationship where they can be vulnerable and emotionally authentic, and that's their spouse. Most women have a number of those out there. They've got confidants, they've got close friends, they've got a sister that they tell everything to. Men just don't have that. Men get more, now that, to quote or to paraphrase Esther Perel, now that permanent relationships or marriages or partnerships are no longer about finances, now that women don't need men to survive financially, and relationships aren't financial arrangements, they're all about emotional safety. And, men need that in the relationship, need that emotional connection. Even if we think all we need is sex, we need that emotional connection more than women do. And so I think if you did have the 5-year lease, you'd have a lot. Well, the divorce rate, 69% of divorces are initiated by women. I think if you had the 5-year lease and then you can part company, and every 5 years you get to make that decision, and there's no legal ramifications, you're untied from each other. You don't have to pay a divorce lawyer $50,000 or whatever that costs.
Well, maybe if
I think you find more men getting dumped than women. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Pardon me. Well, I also think if one of the responses to the business contract statement of it all is well, then how about being up for an annual review? If you want to look at it like it's a business sort of situation.
Kind of like that.
You have an annual review. You have to meet these goals and work on these things by the end of the year, and then we'll see how things are going and review. I mean, I think that's...
And if not, the lease is broken or the contract is ended.
Terminate the contract.
Terminate the contract. Well, I think the point is that I made a video trying to encourage one behavior, and the cognitive dissonance is just crazy. It was interpreted as, oh, don't you understand that a marriage is a business contract? What the fuck, man? How is there any hope for us as a gender if we can't pick up what's being laid down to that degree? Mm-hmm. So it was concerning for me. I appreciate all those that commented, hey, that probably don't feel very appreciated right now, but I do appreciate it. I think the way men and women interpret feedback, it is a problem, and you don't have to wait until you're married in midlife and in a dysfunctional marriage before that happens. So I coach high school and college men's and women's soccer both. I think this is very interesting. This is something that I've talked to sports psychologists about. It's been validated by mental health professionals that deal with athletes. If I talk to the back line, the defenders on a women's soccer team, let's say we're in a set of 4 on the back line, and I say, hey, here's what we need to do differently. Here's what's not going well. You're yawning in my example.
I'm pretending to yawn.
if I say it's not going well, we need to do something differently, all 4 of those girls or young women will think, I'm the one who's messing up. My teammates haven't figured out. I need to step up my game and be as good at doing this thing this way as my teammates are. If I have that same conversation with a back 4 on a men's team, each of those 4 men is going to think, I'm doing it right, and my teammates are fucking this all up, and they need to step it up and get better.
What about boys?
Boys, same thing.
We said men, so I just want to make sure boys and men are...
Until they hit 25, men's prefrontal cortex development is behind women anyway, so men and boys in this late adolescence, early 20-something, pretty similar. I shouldn't say totally similar. I mean, I would definitely prefer to communicate with young 20-something men as opposed to 16-year-old boys. There is a sizable difference there. But the ego is kind of the same. Like, I got this figured out. Why don't my teammates figure it out? And it's the polar opposite in women. So my curiosity here, I put this video out with one intent, and it gets read as a misinterpretation of the legal contracts of marriage. I talk about the backline in soccer, boys' interpretation of what I'm saying versus girls' interpretation. Is that nurture versus nature? Or like what part of that is the way we're conditioned and what part of that is genetic? Sherry, what do you think?
I think, well, I don't know exactly how to describe generational trauma, but I feel like what my therapist told me about generational trauma is it's something that is, it just, you know, like if there is a great-great-grandparent that, you know, had a major trauma and maybe it was like depression and things, you know, going through the Great Depression, things like that. So maybe like food storage and hoarding and living very meagerly has been passed down through the other generations. But part of that can be like a chemistry or chemical or like I don't know. I didn't know it was going to be a fucking biology test here. Something within your biology. Stored within your biology.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very much true with Holocaust survivors and their further generations down. That people still have that trauma within them. So I feel like it's both. I feel like the nurturing expectations of females are different than males. So people are more inclined to make their female child more loving and caring and sweet, and then they kind of expect them to take on these roles, whereas also like it's nature because it's been ingrained, and whether that's from like biblical times where women had no you know, autonomy and power and things like that, so that patriarchal type of nature that's seeped through in generational trauma. I don't know. Like, I feel like it could be a bit of both. I mean, there certainly are, you know, people that don't fall into those categories, but it is, I think, very true that there is, I mean, we kind of had a little bit of an experiment with our kids. There is some sort of nature that takes over.
But what you're suggesting, which I really like, is that, yeah, maybe there's some nature, maybe there's some passing down genetically, but maybe that's because of the conditioning of prior generations. So maybe it is all conditioning. It's just your grandma and your great-grandma and your great-great-grandma have been conditioned the same way.
I think also there's like the differences of hormone levels, like, you know, like that play in. I mean, there are certainly little boys, I mean, within our own household of 3 boys, and where I work, like my classroom is very boy heavy this year. There are differences that I can see that maybe play into hormonal stuff. Like our youngest was very competitive. He just was, and our pediatrician said, I think he just has a lot more testosterone, and he was born with a larger amount of testosterone than maybe your others, because he was very much a spitfire. He wanted to know everything. Like he was easy to anger because he was competitive.
He wanted to know how much babies cost on the black market. That's one of the things he asked the Google machine. That was bizarre.
Yeah. But I think there is a level of hormones that are like with you when you're born. So I think that's a nature thing too. So there might be more, motherly, nurturing, loving, sweet kind of females. But then we also can have very, very competitive females and spitfires. Like I've got one little girl and she's just a spitfire. I mean, I think she's funny as all get out. She's so herself.
I see it coaching every year. I've got usually it's one player on the team, on a girls team or a women's team, that competes in a way that I cannot comprehend. Mm-hmm. Just way more competitive than I ever have been. And I think it's fascinating. So, yeah, okay.
So I feel like it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Sorry to throw your...
No, that's great. How much does being in a relationship with an alcoholic contribute to the normal conditioning? Here's what I mean by that. We've talked many times about how females are subjected to different conditioning being raised as males are. Different. The experiences are different. I think it's safe to say that the majority of women, by the time they reach their mid-20s, have had some kind of unwanted sexual advance. Can be super severe, can be a little bit more minor, whatever. Nobody gets through unscathed for the most part. They've just been subjected to different things. And then if you end up in an alcoholic relationship, what happened with us, Sherry, me being a relatively high-functioning alcoholic, the thing that alcohol did to me was it lowered those inhibitions, and it made me say things that if I ran through my sober filter, I wouldn't say. And so name calling, just rudeness, raising my voice, getting really upset about things that aren't worthy of being upset about, or at least not really upset about. The filter was gone with the alcohol. And so let's just stick with name calling. I called you names as an alcoholic when drinking in ways that I wouldn't have otherwise. I think that's very common. It's not universal, but it's very common. Sometimes the alcoholic just kind of sulks and isolates away, and silent treatments and things like that. But often, very often, the alcoholic uses language and volume and intensity that they wouldn't otherwise use. And when you're on the receiving end of that, you've already got the normal conditioning that you're dealing with, being raised up as a woman in our society. And now you've got, you're being emotionally abused, followed by an apology cycle over and over. Drink too much, yell, curse, emotionally abuse, call names, sober up, apologize. The cycle goes on and on. How much does that contribute to like a topic such as negative self-talk? A lot of people, both genders, experience negative self-talk. But I just have the sense that sometimes that's worse in women. And I think there's the general conditioning, but especially if you've been in an alcoholic relationship. How do you react to that?
Well, I think that it's very easy to have a lot of self-talk. And we actually had a call about this with our Echoes of Recovery group recent we were talking about conditioning within your upbringing, which would kind of keep you from thinking too highly of yourself as a female. So I think that it's easy to knock us down, us females who have been conditioned like that. It's easy to knock us down a few more pegs than it would be somebody who was raised in a very stable, but then also encouraging. Like, be yourself. Don't put up, basically don't put up with shit. Like, no one is better than you are. So, there's nobody better. So have more self-esteem for yourself. So I think it's just easier for women to get kind of knocked down if they've been raised or perhaps even groomed to believe those things. We also threw in a little bit about some of the religious components with that there are people that have been raised in a more religious environment where one of the things we're taught is like serving others is a really great thing, and always forgiving somebody. Like that's part of some biblical text about forgiving, but not putting yourself first is very biblical. But sometimes we need to elevate and love ourselves.
Sometimes, all the times, if you ask me.
To get through this a little bit more than what we would feel comfortable with.
Let's talk specifically about your experience with that cycle that I described. Drink too much, cause an argument, say mean things, sober up, apologize. You've said many times that the apology was worthless because when an apology that's followed by repeated bad behavior, the apology might as well not even have been spoken. It was a waste of breath. And in fact, starts to become toxic, starts to feel bad because it's just coming again.
Yeah.
How about the way you felt about yourself? I think it's probably easy for you on a kind of conscious level to say this jackass I'm married to is drunk again and saying mean things. But even though you recognize that it's kind of invalid or obnoxious or whatever, toxic, emotionally abusive, some of it still seeps in though, doesn't it? Does it chew away at your self-worth?
I think it does. I think in the beginning, I didn't realize those blanket apologies weren't going to mean anything later on. But then I think after years and years of this repeated cycle, I started to kind of formulate an opinion of like, I must be really worried and frightened about something that's keeping me from leaving or speaking up. But I also realized I was losing tremendous amount of respect for you every time this thing would happen. So not only did I feel like I was starting to come back with my self-esteem, but you were lowering on the totem pole rapidly, like where I was placing you. So there was almost this shift at some point, and I think that's about the time I started detachment, and I had done some work on looking into how alcoholism is affecting the relationship. But I would feel really confident in that midsection of our life when these things were going on, and I was not appreciating the blanket statement apologies and the talks afterwards. But I feel like I would leave the house, or you would leave the house, and I would feel so good and self-confident, and I felt like I could accomplish things. But then I would get around you, and I could feel like you would, have one criticism, not when you were drunk, but perhaps when we were working together at our bakery. And I was like, I'm just never, ever going to be good enough for him.
Did the one little criticism, like, hey, can you do that this way instead of that way? Something simple.
Yeah.
Would that just throw you into a spiral of all the other criticisms? Is that what it did? Trigger you like that?
I guess it would depend on like how we had been getting along and how I had been feeling. Like if it was a situation like when mostly really the only times we worked together was like out of necessity, whether one of our employees was sick or it was a holiday. And I would think, gee, I do this in my shifts and I do it this way and the place hasn't fallen apart.
Yeah.
So that's again where I would like lose respect for you, hate working with you, and then be like, why is my way not good enough? Oh, wait, it's never going to be good enough for him.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily mean that all of the other criticisms came in. I would just fester maybe on that one critique.
Well, the criticism definitely would be unnecessary. Mm-hmm. Two people can do the same thing in different ways and they can both be right. And I was terrible at recognizing that. Let's look at something that I know will hit home for you and a lot of people. On occasion, this wasn't my go-to, it wasn't like every time, but if the thing that started to inspire the negative discussion was about parenting. If I would parent one way and you would parent a different way and I'd been drinking and you were frustrated because you weren't getting the response you wanted from the kids and I would say something about your parenting, or say, God, if you just do it my way, if you're just a better parent, if you weren't so like, not complacent, that's not the right word. If you didn't let them walk all over you, if you didn't give them so many choices, when I would criticize your parenting. Now, on the conscious level, I bet you could say, fuck you, Matt, I'm a good parent. But did that eat away at you? When we talk about negative self-talk, for instance, let's get specific with our listeners about what that is. Did you tell yourself that you weren't a good enough mom? Did that ever creep in for you?
I think with our youngest, I felt like that because it was like his birth and younger part of the life that I feel like your drinking was the worst. Mm-hmm. Because before you stopped drinking, you had actually kind of backed off and you weren't drinking as much. You were just, every time you're drinking, there was just a lot more anxiety and depression. So I feel like I kind of felt like it was like, well, maybe I was not doing it right. And I understood on a conscious level that all children are different. And so you need to have different ways of dealing with or disciplining and working with each child on their own level. And he was a little bit more of a challenge, but also I was a lot more stressed. So I did really start to think, oh, maybe I'm not doing this the right way. Maybe he really does need that kind of parenting style on my worst days. So I do feel like I do doubt myself more with him, but I think it was because also I was so worn down from your drinking and things had been so much rougher.
Is parenting your biggest category of negative self-talk, or is there... while you think about that, let me just share, not surprisingly for any of our listeners, not surprisingly also because I'm a dude, and this is where the majority of men get their self-esteem. My negative self-talk is around occupation more than anything else. And so whether it's, I've got two kind of distinctly different occupations, coaching soccer and then doing the behavioral health research and writing that we do. On the stuff that's, applicable to this podcast discussion, I had such imposter syndrome that I went and got a master's degree. And then as soon as I had that master's degree, instead of feeling proud and feeling like I had earned my place and my voice was more valid, I immediately felt jealous of the people with PhDs and thought, gosh, I better not talk too loud because those PhD people think I'm an idiot. So, and same thing with coaching, measuring coaching success is pretty darn easy. Wins and losses and championships, right? And so even though I would take on teams that maybe had a little more diversity, maybe less resources being poured toward them, even though there were reasons why I would take on a team that was going to struggle in the win and loss category, and I knew it, but I liked that. I enjoyed that more. I then would come up against a coach with more wins and losses and compare myself negatively and immediately kind of down talk myself. Like, I don't deserve to be in the room with this person having this conversation. And so that's where my negative self-talk has always lived, on the kind of outward achievement side. How about you? Where's your biggest area of negative self-talk? Is it around parenting? You being the nurturer that you are?
Well, I know you told me to think about this while you were talking, but I also didn't want to miss what you had to say in case you threw a question in there at me.
You never know what's going to come out of these lips.
So I did pay attention.
Gotta stay on your toes.
I feel like parenting, yes, because I wanted that. I decided if we were going to have children, that was going to be one of my main focuses. And so parenting for sure. I also do feel like part of it is a little bit of work related, like now, or maybe earlier or a while ago when the kids were getting older and all in school and we had stopped owning our bakery together. I was like, well, now what do I do? Like, the kids aren't little, they don't need me at home. I mean, I understand teenagers and middle schooler age, they need you just as much, if not even more in a lot of ways. But I do feel like a little bit of a career, quote unquote, work is where I have some negative self-talk as well. Because I'm like, I'm not as accomplished as I would have liked to be sitting here in mid-50s. Yeah. So I think both.
Does it help
parenting like 70%, career 30%.
On the career side, does it help you? Because this would be, it's like we're having a discussion.
We are.
Yeah. You're right. But what I would immediately say to you if you said, I don't feel as accomplished as I should be mid-50s, I would say, yeah, that's because you've had so many different distinct careers. You were in banking for a decade. And then after that, well, that's not even true. You were in culinary for 5 years and then banking for 5 years. I'm rounding the numbers. And then back into culinary, but also small business ownership when we owned the bakery for 15 years. And, you know, you really threw yourself into early education after that. So, yeah, when you're on your fourth career at age 54, 53, 53.
54.
54? Oh, yeah, 54. Then...
Thanks for throwing my age out there, though.
You're welcome.
We'll be getting on these AARPs.
You said mid-50s and I said 54. Like, come on. You've got years to go. Still in the mid-50s category.
All right, yes, AARP sends me shit. That's how old I am. Okay, get on with it. Yes.
So, if you said that to me, my attempt to help you would be like, hey, you're on your fourth career. You're doing great. Would that soothe you at all? Or would that just annoy you? Because instead of listening, I'm trying to fix your problem.
Yeah, it would annoy me because you're trying to fix my problem. And you're trying to, like, take a spin on it when I maybe want to, like,
just feel the feels for a while. Yeah.
Feel the feels of it, you know?
I get it.
But also with that, yes, maybe that would be part of it, is that I flittered through different careers and different, you know.
I flittered? What? I can't just let you do that to yourself. You didn't flitter. You embraced them. You wrung all the life you could out of them, and then you moved on to something different because you had lots of energy and vibrancy and you wanted to go tackle a new challenge. You didn't flitter.
Are you just trying
couldn't land on anything. I'm just a butterfly, just pollinating all the shit and not living anywhere. You've done great.
Well, yes, and part of it was I flittered because we moved with your career path when you were working for a company because it was more lucrative and they were advancements. So there was a little bit of flittering because of moving. But
Sherry, an area where you struggle is to accept a compliment.
And you struggle with toxic positivity because you just try to, like, spew your positivity. Flitter, I'm not going to let you get away with that. Like, I appreciate that, but it's okay that I have a little bit of negative self-talk about that to a degree.
I don't agree. I think negative self-talk needs to be eliminated, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
But you can't accept a compliment. You can dole out what's the opposite of a compliment? An insult with my toxic negativity, or positivity, I mean. But you can't accept a compliment. Why don't you explain to our listeners what it's like for you to receive a compliment? You know, you're getting better.
Is this part of the podcast?
Yes, we're talking about becoming our own worst enemies is going to be the title of this.
I did not know that.
What do you think? You think this is all banter? This is all the prelims? No,
okay,
this is the
topic. What's it like to get a compliment? Well, I think that for me, immediately I think, what do they want? I have suspiciousness. Usually, and this is because you were in business and in business school and in the working environment, you were taught the compliment sandwich, which means here's a compliment, but you need to fix this and throw on the other compliment. Well, I just want to get to the fucking insult or the work or whatever. Don't butter me up on both sides. Just lay it out there, right? Like, what do you want? What do I need to? I even still say to you, and you're like, oh, that was really good. And I'll go, but.
I like that, the compliment sandwich. For
You're
someone
the
who
one that
hates
told me about that.
Well, sure, but for someone who hates compliments, that's 3 negatives. It's supposed to be 2 positives and a negative, but for you it's like, fuck you, I don't believe that compliment. Fuck you, I don't believe that compliment, and thank you for telling me the thing I'm doing wrong. It's like negative, negative, negative.
Stop.
The trifecta of negative. But let's go back to the first thing. Okay. Sorry, finish though.
Well, I was going to say, and then the second thing, besides like the suspicious part, is when, I don't know, I don't like compliments about like my physical appearance. I mean, yeah, like you can say something about my hair because that's something you kind of have a little bit of control over, color, style, whatever. If you talk about like, oh, those are cute shoes, or that's a neat purse, or whatever, like that I'm okay with because it's something I chose to buy, something that appealed to me visually, and so it has been an ornament to my wardrobe or whatever.
You curated your own look.
Yes. But if you were to say, I don't know.
I like those sweet buns on you, or something like that.
I would just, that pisses me off. But
because body parts.
Yeah. But if you were to say, oh, you look very lovely or you look very pretty, like those sort of things, even if it was because of the outfit and the hair or whatever, if we were going somewhere, that would make me feel those make me feel a little weird, even coming from you. Because I don't want to be complimented on my physicalness. I like to be complimented on things that I can do, but also I don't accept those well.
Well, okay, let's talk about that. Even for me, certainly from others, you don't like compliments about physical stuff, physical appearance. But I think that ties into the first thing you said too. What are you trying to get out of me? That question that you have when you're receiving a compliment. To what degree do you think that comes from conditioning, specifically the conditioning that females endure? Because as teenagers, hopefully, God, not before teenagers, but probably before teenagers, and then on upward, you are being subjected to being buttered up to try to get something out of you, sexual or otherwise.
Yeah, and I hope that younger generations, like our kids' generation, Gen Zers, I hope all of that, and Gen Alphas will take the Me Too movement and we will take that off the table. But like growing up in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of comments that were made about physical appearance. It's everywhere. If you watch like a movie from the 80s, they're always like talking about females' appearances. I mean,
yes,
our president, he constantly is remarking females' appearances, negatively or positively. So I think women have just been subjected to their appearances being so important that is what became like the ick factor for me.
I heard a female comedian this week, and as usual, I'd love to give attribution, but I was...
Was it Michelle?
No, it wasn't Michelle Fox. I love her so much. No, it was somebody else, and I was just scrolling and went right on past her, didn't even look at her name. But she is in front of an audience, and she says to the audience, she says to a man in her audience, what is your greatest fear when you go on a first date? And while the guy was thinking of his answer, I was thinking of mine. And the man's answer was that he was afraid that he would spill his food on himself. And I was thinking, my answer is I'm afraid that I would have some kind of like bathroom zipper incident and pee my pants somehow and have to like, now this isn't something that happens frequently. That just popped into my head. Whatever. That's my greatest fear. And so the women in the audience kind of chuckle, and then the comedian looks at a woman and says, what's your greatest fear on a first date? And she says that I'll be raped or killed. And that was the point of the joke. Obviously not funny, but the different perspectives that we have, I think it's pretty common for a female to think of a first date experience, that danger flag being in the back of your head, like, hey, this person's picking me up, they're driving me somewhere, I gotta
You don't do
stay
that for a
vigilant
first
and
date.
make sure I stay safe all the time. Or you don't do that in a first date. Even better. You did when we were
You
younger.
did when we were young, and that's how a lot of us got subjected to date rape or pushed into situations we didn't want and things like that. That's why I said I hope the generations of, the teenagers and young adults now, the Gen Zers, are going to change that with consent and being more mindful and, males understanding this worry and concern that females have. Like, for example, you didn't think about, there was our daughter was traveling this summer. Her phone died while we were on vacation. You were like, we'll just wait and order it when she gets back. And I'm like, no, we're going into town and get her one because she's going to be traveling. It was holiday weekend. There's always like storms at the beginning of the season. I'm like, no, and she's alone. And how is she going to like call her ride?
As almost always, you were right.
I was like, there's just no way.
You were absolutely right.
I would, and I know that this is sexist, I would feel a smidge bit better if our oldest son was doing that.
I would feel a lot better, and it's not because he's stronger and he can defend himself. It's because, listen, men get raped too, but to the threat, the risk assessment is different. It's not as frequent, and it's not in a situation where it's a bad Uber driver for men. It's usually some trusted groomer situation when men get raped. So you were absolutely right. And I wish I had thought that through better and not had such a stupid ass remark like, we'll just get it when she gets home. You were right about that. So the point is, this kind of circles back to the original part of this conversation where I talked about a video that I made suggesting that partners need to treat each other better so that when the end of their 5-year lease marriage, they'll want to renew. And the men all thought about the legal structure of the marriage, if it's a lease instead of a buy. And the women are like, yeah, I'd like to be treated a little better. A man is asked what's your fear from the first date. Well, I don't want to drop a meatball in my lap. Oh, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
The cognitive dissonance is amazing. And we need to really have that understanding to improve the respect that we have for each other. But I also think this ties into this conversation about things like negative self-talk. I can't accept a compliment. It really frustrates me that I'll compliment you on something smart that you did, not even appearance-wise, right? And oh yeah, what are you trying to get out of me? Is your initial, and I know it's getting better, but I have to have respect for the fact that comes from growing up and having teenage boys and young 20 men trying to get in your pants, and that often starts with a compliment.
Or men of all ages that felt like it was appropriate to make compliments that were not appropriate.
Yeah, it just starts
and comments. There. Yeah, it just starts there. But yeah, because we worked at a college bar and parents' weekend, I'm like, ooh, if your wife knew you were flirting with the waitress, that's a little gross and creepy. Like, you understand, these are people that are your child's age that you're in town to party with. Ugh.
So we all become our own worst enemies. It's widely accepted that the criticism that we have for ourselves is way worse than any criticism we'll probably ever get from the outside world, at least in the vast majority of our encounters and relationships with other people. So we're all our own worst enemies. There is a gender component, and I think it's important to recognize it. But so when we talk about how do we become our own worst enemies, sexual advances in adolescence and young adulthood and beyond, the alcoholic factor is definitely there. Going through those toxic cycles of bad behavior and apology and thinking, oh, I apologize, so there, we're good now. No. You've left your mark. The negative self-talk is now embedded, and good luck getting it out. It's going to take years of emotional safety. And then just the just systematic, the threats associated with being a woman that don't exist for men. This is all part of becoming our own worst enemy, getting to the point where we are breaking ourselves down and not having the confidence that's required to be a healthy, mentally healthy, stable individual that's capable of healthy connection. And so I just think it's important that we recognize all the places where it's coming from. Last thing I want to say before we do the sponsor break. After the sponsor break, we're going to talk about interventions that people can use when they've got these kind of own worst enemy traits, negative self-talk, can't accept a compliment. How do we build that self-esteem? But the last thing I want to say before we get to that is it's very interesting. You and I have seen it so many times when a relationship, the relationships we deal with have all been impacted by alcoholism. But when a relationship goes into a separation or into a divorce, it's often, the female often says something to the effect of, I need to find myself. I need to figure out what I want from life. I need to figure out what's next. And those kind of statements, I think, to the partner, I know for me, that would be like, what the hell does that mean? What does that mean? What do you mean you got to know what you want? What do you mean you don't know what you want? It's like the lease versus buy thing. I am not picking up what you're laying down. And one of the things that we've learned from our Echoes of Recovery think tank, which we're going to reference a lot in the solutions portion of this conversation, but one of the things that we've learned is what that means when a woman says, I need this separation because I need to find myself, is I need to get my nervous system regulated. I need to be able to parent my children without being in fight, flight, fawn, or freeze all the time, walking on eggshells, high anxiety. I need that break from you so that I'm not worried about what you're going to say, what you're going to do, how you're going to participate negatively in the household, and I can just become myself again. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Is that something that you experienced? One of the things that you did when I got sober was you still spent a lot of time separated from me. Was that you saying, okay, fine, you're sober, but I'm not okay. I need some room.
Yeah, I think so. Especially once we closed the bakery and started working from home, I was like, oh, my only reprieve from you was going to work, even though there was sobriety. It was still very uncomfortable, and it was still a long road that we had to work through. We had to work through a lot of stuff, and it wasn't like you just drank for 2 years, so then it's just a year of recovery. No, you drank for a long time, and there's a lot of damage. So just being around you more, even if you were just in another room working, just knowing that you were in the house, kind of put me on edge. I just needed to take real breaks, separation breaks, physical removal breaks.
Does the physical removal breaks, in addition to the fact that we were out of those cycles of drink, emotionally abuse, apologize, being away from all of that, does that help reduce the amount of negative self-talk that you're having for yourself?
I guess. I think for me,
not as important as getting off the eggshells, but
I think that was I was gonna say that was for me. It was more or less just feeling more comfortable around myself and in my own skin because I wasn't on the eggshells. And a lot of times the negative talk wasn't necessarily negative self-talk, other than why am I, still with him? What's going on? I need to figure out if I like even being around him. I mean, why do I like being around him? And I'm trying to be outside of the house as much as I possibly can. When the kids were in school, during the school hours. So I think just having a little bit more of a stable nervous system was really what was more beneficial to me.
If you relate to what we're talking about becoming your own worst enemy, negative self-talk and otherwise, after we tell you about our sponsors, we're going to talk about some interventions. Some come from the outside world. Some come from right here within our Echoes of Recovery group, our Echoes of Recovery think tank, where we have come up with some ideas that really help people move past that negativity. But first, we'd like you to know that we are sponsored by SoberLink. SoberLink is the premier remote alcohol monitoring system combining cutting-edge technology with compassionate design to support accountability in recovery and family law. Guys, let me talk directly to you for a minute. If you are like me, you are sure that you've got this sobriety thing. You've been reading and researching about addiction. Maybe you attend meetings, and maybe you've assembled a toolkit of things that you can do when cravings strike. And if you're like me, maybe you're confident that your grit and determination will get you over the hump when all else fails. And for the most part, like me, you're probably right. But if you might be like me, please consider this. It took me 10 years to get sober. Throughout that decade, I had long periods where all the stuff that I just mentioned was enough to keep me sober. But then I had moments of weakness too, or times when I was totally convinced that the new rule I planned to put around my drinking would keep me moderating successfully. And that would let me drink like everybody else. So my relapses were real gems. I thought I had it figured out. 10 years wasted because of those relapses. If I had SoberLink back then, I'm sure I would have made it and saved myself and my family a decade of trauma and misery.
And guys, if you're not going to do it for yourself, get SoberLink as a gift for your family. There is no alcoholic trauma that is as devastating as holiday alcoholic trauma. I know from experience, year after year. Please, it doesn't mean you aren't tough or committed if you buy a tool to help you make it. In fact, using tools to get a job done makes you smart and efficient and shows that you love your family and that you love them more than your ego.
Right now, this holiday season, SoberLink is offering Intoxicated Podcast listeners a free offer ID valid for a $100 enrollment bonus. That is a $100 enrollment bonus for SoberLink's best-in-class service and product combination with built-in facial recognition and tamper detection, expert in-house support, emailed daily, weekly, or monthly reporting that's court admissible in all 50 states and Canada, unlimited testing days, and scheduled testing to build accountability and trust.
Claim your offer ID for a $100 enrollment bonus. There is no commitment required to claim your offer ID while this promotion lasts, and you can use your $100 enrollment bonus when you're ready to place your order. To claim this offer ID, you will only need to provide your name and email address, no personal details, no commitment, and no credit card number. Claim your offer ID for your $100 enrollment bonus. Please go to soberlink.com/untoxicated.
We are supported by the participants in our Shout Sobriety and Echoes of Recovery think tanks. On a recent Monday, a man living in a rural setting with a woman who owns horses said, "I mended her fence, I fed her animals, and I made her breakfast. What more does she want from me?" That Wednesday, his partner said, "He fixed my fence, he fed my horses, and he made me breakfast. But he refuses to talk to me about the growing unspoken conflict between us. I can't live this way." Another man said, "I've apologized, I've gotten sober, and I'm proud of the man I've become. Why does she keep bringing up the past?" 2 days later, his wife said, "He can't take it when I bring up the trauma I've been through, and I can't stay married to a man who isn't strong enough to help me process the past. I don't need a clean slate. I need my experiences to be valid." What makes our organization unique is the exposure we have to both sides of an alcoholic partnership. Those experiences drive everything we say, everything we write, and everything we do. We learn, then we share, and together we all grow.
The normal flow of participation is that someone joins our Echoes of Recovery think tank for the partners of alcoholics. And once they get comfortable, they often suggest that their drinker or former drinker, that he or she join our Shout Sobriety think tank. We honor and respect the confidences and privacies of both people, and we also facilitate growth and discovery not available in programs with a singular focus.
If you are the partner of a former drinker or a current drinker, and that drinking has caused you trauma and anxiety, please consider joining us in Echoes of Recovery. Once you are comfortable, maybe you'll want to invite your partner to join us in Shout Sobriety. That's how it most frequently flows.
To see if you belong in Echoes of Recovery, please go to echoesofrecovery.org and take our brief introductory survey. It won't take you a minute to see if you might be a fit. It won't take you a minute to see if we would be a fit for each other. Sorry.
That's echoesofrecovery.org. Okay, interventions for building self-confidence from both sides of addiction, really anyone. These are ways to build self-confidence, which is so important to recovery and discovery from alcoholism. But These are things that would help anyone. Most of what we're going to talk about comes from discussions within our think tank. But first, right off the top, I want to mention an intervention that we learned from Emma McAdam. She is a therapist that has a YouTube channel called Therapy in a Nutshell. Strongly recommend it. It's a great channel. We've learned a lot from it. She talks about going zero tolerance for negative self-talk. So I want to emphasize and underline the zero tolerance piece. Because here's what happens. If you say, I need to cut down on negative self-talk, it's kind of like those cycles that we went through when I would drink and be an asshole and then apologize. It's still there. Even if sometimes I'd go 6 weeks between episodes, it's still there. It's still going to happen again. And so when you're allowing yourself some negative self-talk, but trying to be a little bit better to yourself, it's still there. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, I've said for many years now, I'm so blessed that my major addiction was to alcohol, because alcohol is something that you can not only live without, you can thrive without it. There's no biological part of me that needs alcohol. I feel really a ton of empathy for people whose major primary addiction is to things like food or shopping or technology. You have to shop to survive. You have to eat to survive. You could move to the woods and become a hermit and live without technology, but I don't think many people are going to do that. So for the most part, you need technology to survive. So if your addiction is to something where you have to learn to moderate, that's the solution. Yikes, that is hard. With alcohol, you can have zero tolerance. And with negative self-talk, you can also have zero tolerance. Allow for no negative self-talk at all. Sherry, when I suggest that to you, Sherry, you are not allowed to have any negative self-talk, and you have to self-patrol that. You got to go zero tolerance. Your eye roll says a lot. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's one of those really, really hard things that you don't really think about it being a hard thing because of just us humans being our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
I think that when you make a mistake, you can be, you don't have to berate yourself, but you can feel pretty silly about a mistake, and owning up to it, is okay. If you have to own up to it to somebody else and you can apologize for making the mistake, but you're still going to feel bad, and you can say things like, oh, that was really dumb. That was a really dumb move. And that's a negative self-talk.
You can, but why? Earlier you called me toxically positive. This is not an insult. This is no secret to our listeners that you are a little bit more of a pessimist than I am. So I'm not surprised if this will be a challenge for you. But why not go 100%? Why not go zero tolerance and just not allow yourself to be negative with yourself at all? And just see what happens. Do it for 2 weeks. Every single time you hear something creep in that's negative, find, as Emma McAdams would suggest, find the corollary that's positive. So, God, that was so stupid, Emma McAdam would say.
But I'm still learning.
But I'm still learning.
I watched the video. I know it. I've seen it a couple times.
What do you think?
Well, again, I think...
You willing to give it a try?
You are trying to have an intervention with me right here on the podcast.
Got a used car I'm trying to sell.
Got a house you're trying to...
Low mileage, baby.
Yeah, I think I'm doing better about negative self-talk.
But what about zero tolerance?
All right, fuck you, I'll try. How about that?
Fuck you, I'll try. All right, I'll take it. You can be
I'll
negative
try
to me as long as you're not negative to you.
I'll be negative to you. I'll just outwardly be negative.
Yeah, I can be your little whipping boy. It'll be fun.
I mean, I think that it is really easy for humans to, like I said, be really hard on ourselves, and the conditioning and training and the years of not even just, I think just the years of being a female and not thinking too proudly of ourselves.
We've justified all the reasons you get into this,
right,
Jim.
I agree. It's just a really hard habit to break.
Kind of like drinking alcohol.
Exactly.
I'm thinking through, like, who am I insulting by saying that? What's the blowback I'm going to get for saying that?
Or just like any bad habit and addiction. Yeah. I think there are people that will find it really, really challenging because they haven't healed as much as I have, like with alcohol being so much in our past and the way we've worked on the relationship. I feel like I have a lot more self-confidence and, so I can see somebody early days, it'd be really hard.
But even with all that growth that you've accomplished, it's still going to be hard for you. It's still something that you view as a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, going zero.
Let's just report. We'll make it kind of a weekly segment on the podcast. Oh my God, the look. I knew I was going to get that look. Maybe it won't be weekly. Maybe we'll never talk about it again. But maybe we will. Who knows? Let's see. So the other interventions that we want to talk about are things that came out of the discussion within our Echoes of Recovery think tank. And also, we had a conversation about this in Shout Sobriety, and some of this came from that as well. So I love this one. I love this so much. If you hear somebody else talking negatively about themselves, you say to that person, don't be mean to my friend. And it'll probably take them a second for it to click. What do you mean? Be mean? Oh, I'm your friend and I'm being mean to myself. And so you're mad at me for being mean to myself. I love that. Do you love that?
I do, but it doesn't even have to be friend. It could be like, what if it's a stranger at the grocery store or a coworker that you're not a friend with?
If you want to be so bold as to, accost a stranger at the grocery store, go get him, Tiger. But a coworker, fine. Don't be so mean to my coworker.
Maybe the checkout person, someone that you see regularly and like, oh, that was really stupid. I just, like squashed your loaf of bread or whatever,
Don't be so mean to my service provider.
Just don't be mean to yourself.
Well, but the twist is, don't be mean to my friend. The person's going to have to take a second and say, who's your friend? I'm talking about myself. Oh, I'm the friend. Oh. I don't know. I just like it. I like it so much. I can tell. You can tell? Okay, so that's a great... And as you do that, as a negative self-talker, as you hear yourself correcting your friends and not letting them be mean to themselves, can't help but rub off on you. One of the ways that's very applicable for me, I facilitate lots of writing groups where people who are not professional writers write and then share what they've written. And so often they start with, I don't think I did this right, or this isn't as good as everybody else's, or nothing would come to me, so I just blurted out a bunch of stuff and none of it makes sense. So often people start with some kind of a negative caveat before they lead in, and almost always the writing is magnificent because it's authentic and it's vulnerable, and that's what we're looking for. And so I have started as a facilitator to disallow that introductory bullshit. Don't say it's not as good as everybody else's. We just want to hear it. Let's hear it because it's you and that's awesome and we are proud of you. So I found that keeps me from introductory caveats of negativity because I don't let other people do it. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Sherry's almost out of words.
Yeah.
The wordometer is low.
Yeah, I worked a little bit more today in a preschool classroom before we did the podcast, so I had lots of words today.
Another person in Echoes of Recovery suggested this, and I love this as well. If we beat ourselves up for something that didn't go well, or we have anxiety that we're not good enough to do the thing that's in front of us with success, what she suggests is ask yourself, is that a big thing or a little thing? And almost always the thing's going to fall into the little thing category. So you're beating yourself up because, you forgot to turn the ring light on before you started recording. Oh, I did forget to put the noise dampening pillows behind us, which is something I started.
The high tech noise.
It's working. It's better.
Yeah, I noticed that.
This will be bad sound quality because I forgot to put the pillows there.
I was gonna say something, but I was like, well, maybe it really doesn't work.
So here I could easily, when we finish recording, be like, oh,
we gotta do this again.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'm not
it
that
would
much
be
of
solo podcasting.
Is masochist the right word? I don't hate myself enough to do that. But I could beat myself up for it and say, oh, I forgot the pillows. And perfect example, because our friend from Echoes would say, Matt, is that a big thing or a little thing? And of course I would say, well, that's a pretty little thing. 326 episodes. We've only used the ground dampening or the sound dampening pillows for 3 of them. Pretty sure this one's going to sound like most of the rest of them.
Yeah.
So big thing, little thing is really, and it just drops the anxiety.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I often think of it like, is it a big thing or a little thing? Is it going to make or break the situation? Is it going to matter in a year? Is it going to matter in a week? Like, I do think about those things often. And it does pop into my head that it helps me go, you know what? If it didn't work out, it didn't work out. You know, because sometimes, like, I do things for the Sunday school class, and it's a little experiment. Maybe it worked when I tried it before the lesson on Sunday morning, but then in the lesson on Sunday morning, it didn't work. And so I try to use that as a teaching example. Like, it was a little thing. It didn't matter if it didn't work. You know, it works sometimes. It doesn't always. But, you know, I can see that helping in a lot of different situations.
Absolutely. Speaking things into reality. The thing that you're working on, the thing that you want to work on, the thing that's in the back of your head. If you talk about it with somebody else, a trusted friend, or in public, it can really, speaking it into reality, it just becomes part of who you are now, and you stop stressing and having anxiety about it. I know when we were winding down our bakery career and I was going to pursue writing, I remember being at the bakery, and this was a period when people knew the bakery was coming to an end, and constantly, all day, people would ask us, what are you going to do next? And I finally said out loud to somebody I didn't know, it was a young couple, customers, and they asked, and I said, I'm going to be a writer. And as soon as I said that, it just gave me so much more confidence to not just to pursue that, but to talk about it out loud and to have it be a thing. You know, I said I'm going to be a writer, and they didn't cackle and laugh and point like I kind of pictured that they would. Like in your favorite Christmas movie, A Christmas Story, when Ralphie writes the essay about the Red Ryder BB gun that he wants, and then he envisions his mom dressed as a jester for some reason, and his teacher dressed as a witch, just chanting, pointing and laughing, and you'll shoot your eye out, and just mocking him. Nobody mocked me. I survived speaking it out loud, and then it became who I was. And I have countless examples of that when there's something where I've had high anxiety. I've spoken into reality, and the anxiety, poof, evaporates. Do you have any examples of that, Sherry? No?
I don't think so.
Well,
I guess I don't have any.
Maybe that's something we can work on. Or maybe that's an intervention that only works for me and nobody else. That one was my idea. It didn't come from, elsewhere in the conversation. So maybe that's only a me thing. Who knows? Sherry, 150 years from now, no one will know who I was, who you were, or anything that we accomplished. Mm-hmm. That might sound depressing, but it's so freeing. Whatever the thing is I'm working on that I think is so important and, so critical, and this deadline and it's got to be good and whatever, 150 years from now, nobody's going to give one single itsy bitsy turd about it. That is so freeing to me. For you?
Yeah.
You don't spend a lot of time with that one, do you?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Well, that's okay. Does it make you depressed to know no one's going to give a shit about you in 150 years?
No, I think I am more of a live in the present kind of moment than you are.
That's exactly what that does. It helps you just say, all that matters is my interactions with the people around me that I love. That really is all that matters. They'll be dead in 150 years too, and nobody will remember them either. So let's just enjoy each other's company. It's fantastic. Okay. Too much self-confidence, I want to make this clear, is way better than not enough self-confidence. This has been studied. There's lots of research that proves this, that shows this. It's important when we talk about these things to build self-confidence that I'm afraid somebody's listening to this, someone who's maybe pretty hard on themselves and saying, well, I don't want to sound braggadocious. I don't want to sound egomaniacal. I don't want to become a narcissist. Don't fear narcissism. We have an example right now of someone with a diagnosable power addiction that's on our TV screens and on our phone feeds most hours of every day, annoyingly so. And in addition to having a diagnosable power addiction, he also has probably got narcissistic personality disorder. I think that takes some kind of an intake. And so that's a little bit harder to diagnose from the outside. But clearly, there's someone that the vast majority, whether they agree with him or not, whether they approve of him or not, would consider him to be a narcissist. If your self-confidence looks like that, if you are accepting made-up awards mean to suck up and appease to you, then you should be concerned. But I think most people do not fall into that category. And actually, it's one of the very few silver linings, one of the little blessings of what we are all experiencing as a country, is we're getting to witness what narcissism looks like on a grand stage. And so those of us that fight negative self-talk and we are our own worst enemies, we are not in danger of becoming narcissists. So we can build self-confidence, use these interventions, use these tools to build self-confidence without worrying that we're going to go too far. The vast majority of people are never going to go too far. We're always going to continue to be hard on ourselves, no matter how hard we try to believe in ourselves. So embrace self-confidence without fear of narcissism, because we see what it looks like, and most of us are not close and never will become close. Mm-hmm. In wrapping up, I want to talk about the fact that I drive around all year round, summer, spring, winter, and fall, with the top down on my Jeep. Do you know why I do that, Sherry?
Because that's why you bought a Jeep Wrangler, because the top can be off. And you said, this is how I like it.
I am a sun worshiper. Mm-hmm. I do very, very much like to be in the sun with the top down. So you're partially right. What happened here in Colorado, we have a lot of like 50s and 60 degrees sunny days in the middle of winter, January, February. And when I first had it, I would have the top up for the winter, and then we'd have like a 58 degree January sunny day, and I just would twitch until I got the top down. I could not stop myself, and I would take the top down. And then a day or two later, it would get cold, and I would go to put it back up, and that thing is a bitch to get the top up when it's cold.
You had to bring the plastic windows in. I
used to bring them in and lean them on the heater.
Yeah,
but then the rest of it that can't come in and my cracked winter fingers are bleeding everywhere, and it was an awful experience. And so I think what happened was
laziness.
No, I would say definitely not just laziness. I would say that I have, if you want to say I have a compulsive disorder, which a lot of people do, myself included. The compulsive disorder is I can't keep myself from putting the top down when it's nice out in the winter. I want that so bad. So
it makes you suffer through the cold, snowy, wet days.
Well, yeah, I want that so bad, and then I can't get the top back up, and so I've just learned to live that way. Okay. But the point is, that has been really helpful to me too, because it's a quirk. It's an oddity about me, and it makes me know I'm not like other people. And so it helps me to avoid self-comparison. That is actually super helpful to me. When I see somebody else that's behaving in a rational, mature, educated, refined manner, and I'm like, I don't act like that. I'm like, yeah, that's because I drive around with the top down, and I'm just a different dude, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. Do you have any odd quirk, Sherry, that makes you remove yourself from self-comparison because you just know you're different? I mean, you've got this intense love for cats.
I think it's hard to diagnose your quirks. I mean, yours is real obvious, but
yeah.
I like cats, but I only have one. It's not like I'm acting on it.
Well, I didn't call you a cat hoarder.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people would relate to your love of animals, cats and dogs and others.
There are lots of animals that I'll talk about. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah? Well, I'll tell you what. You work on zero tolerance for negative self-talk, and I will work on telling you what your quirk is on a future episode. That should go well.
Oh, I know what my quirk is.
All right, let's hear it.
I am very light sensitive.
Oh, your thin eyelids.
And you make fun of me, but you can come into the office, which is just off of our bedroom, and you can turn your phone on, and there is a wall, and your phone light I will feel it come on, through my eyelids.
Through your thin eyelids. You have incredibly thin eyelids.
If
Sherry.
We have blinds. I understand. Yes, we have blinds and curtains in our bedroom, but I can tell that something is off when there is a light on in the house, or someone has changed to a brighter wattage of front porch light bulb across the street.
Our bedroom is off of a small hallway that separates it from the dining room, living room area. And the living room has the front window to the street. And earlier this week, or maybe it was over last weekend, I don't remember, but our neighbors across the street had tree trimmers and yard cleanup people that came and did some work. And you said to me,
the lack of branches.
They had tree trimmers, so I don't know how I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. I'm going to have to do something with the front windows.
Now the tree limbs.
Because wait a minute, the tree limbs that don't have any leaves on them because it's winter.
They still provided some breaking up of the amount of Christmas lights.
Christmas lights. Sherry, bah humbug. Those festive people.
I like Christmas lights. Just
they should go off at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
It should be like an ordinance. Yeah. Or you should get your Red Ryder BB gun and be, with the one with the compass and the stock and the thing that tells time, and just be shooting out their Christmas lights.
No, my quirk is I find it hard to sleep well when there's light.
Because you have thin eyelids.
Or the light that's on our noisemaker machine, because I don't want electronics in the bedroom. I don't want to use my phone as, a sound machine. I do it when we travel or sleep out of the house. But also, the humidifier has very bright light on it to indicate that it's working. And so I have to cover that up.
Sherry, I have often thought to myself, whether I say it out loud or not, when I'm leaving a meeting or an event or a whatever thing that I've been at, in the back of my head, I think this is a quote from a movie, and I can't remember. Maybe you'll remember the movie. But I'll say to myself, well, off to my next huge embarrassing failure. Doesn't that sound like a Chevy Chase movie or something?
I don't know.
Like the one where he's a reporter, Fletch or something? It might be.
Maybe.
I don't know. But I will often say to myself, well, off to my next huge embarrassing failure. But now, because I'm going zero tolerance negative self-talk with you, in support of you, I'm going sober in that area as well. I'm going to start saying to myself, well, off to my next brilliant success. Speak it out there into the ether and make it so. Sound good, Sherry?
Sure.
Let's wrap this up and get on to our next brilliant success. Thank you for listening to the Untoxicated Podcast. You've got this, and we've got you.